This is Math 4 Geometry, and this is a lesson on measurement. And so we're going to talk about some definitions and then how to label points and lines and angles, and then we're going to get into actually measuring these items. So a point is a location, does not have dimension, and so when we do that, we will use capital letters only to label points. So here we have point A, and here we have point B, and these are just locations. We'll get more onto a coordinate plane in a later lesson. A line is a straight path made of an infinitely, this should be infinite, sorry, I'll have to correct that, an infinite number of points with only length and no curvature. So for a line, I'll go ahead and pull out a ruler, and we'll make our line, and then I'm going to put arrows on both ends, and that will represent that this line is continuing in this straight path in each direction. Now there's a couple ways to label a line. We could call it line AB, using once again 2 points to define it. Another option, and I'll draw a different line up here, if I don't want to put actual points on it, I could call it like line, we'll call it line L. And it's common to use a lowercase cursive letter to represent a line if we don't have any points on it, or we could put points on it and then use the 2 points. So this would be line AB, and you could put the little arrow in each direction above it to show that that is a line. What if you don't have a full line? In other words, you don't have a line that extends forever. So let's say it's only part of a line. And we'll use C and D for the letters here. And so this would be a line segment. So line segment, and we'll call it C, D, and we'll put a bar over it to show, I don't like how that came out, let me rewrite that. Put a bar over it without the arrows to show that it is indeed just a segment. So those are the three ways, or two ways that we can label a line. We could use 2 letters representing the points on the line, or we can use a lowercase. We'll probably do more of these letters, but this is always an option. Well, the next thing is an angle. This is a figure formed by 2 lines originating at a common endpoint. And I will go ahead and draw just a little bit. There we go. We'll go ahead and just draw an angle here. Start here, and then I'll connect from this common endpoint. Another line here. Put arrows on the end showing that those are extending. They don't have to extend forever, but they can. And then to label this, I can make 3 points, one of them being the vertex. And we can call this angle ABC. So that is one way to label it. Or you could put a number, want to make sure that looks like a 1 and not just a random vertical line. There we go. We could call that angle 1. So you can use numbers to represent an angle, or you can use 3 letters to represent an angle. And the order doesn't matter. You could do CBA. That is the same angle. The only important part is that they are in order, and that middle number, or sorry, that middle letter is the vertex. Alright, so let's talk about measuring. So we're going to measure our first line segment in inches, and so this is one thing where we have to really think about what we're going to include in this. So I am going to measure from the end of each endpoint, here. So I'm not going from the middle. I'm assuming the end point here, the edge of the dot is where we want to start. So when I line this up, I am going to line it right there at the edge, and then we'll come over here and line it right up to the edge. So here's 15, 15.1, 15.2, 15.3 It looks pretty close. It's not quite to 15.3 though. If we look here, it doesn't quite reach all the way to this point. So it's somewhere between 15.2 and 15.3. Now the question is, which one do we think it's closer to? I would say it's closer to 15.3, so I would put 15.3 centimeters. Now this is where I made my guess. I'm confident on the 15. But whether it's 0.2 or 0.3, it's probably 0.2 something. So this is where my guess is. And every measurement has some uncertainty in it. At some point you are guessing. You're saying, oh, I think it's closer to this number than another number. So that's one thing when we need to recognize is when we are doing measurements, we are doing guesses. And at some point, like it's not perfectly accurate. So I guess I don't like the word guess. I would just say it's accurate up to a certain point. Like the 15, absolutely confident that this is more than 15 centimeters, less than 16, so I know that that's true. Now the 0.2, 0.3, that's where it's a little more uncertain. Let's go do that same measurement, but we're going to do this in inches. So once again, I'll set this up. There's my 0. I want to note this ruler, 0 isn't the edge of the ruler. It's this first line here. So I need to measure that first line right up to the edge of the dot. And then I'll bring this up, and that looks to be really close to 6 inches. It's certainly not this next marking here. So I'm going to just go ahead and say this is about 6 inches. Now, let's talk about these values here. On centimeters, these are pretty easy. And I guess we'll just put a little marking here for 0. And then I'm going to try and mark all these markings here so that this is a little bit longer and then these are shorter, right? So just putting marks here just so we're kind of all on the same page. Those are off. There should be 4 of these. Match that up again, see if I can get the appropriate markings here. Right, and that's a 1. So then these are going to be 0.1. Ooh, this is really messy. It's kind of hard to blow this up and have the values be correct. So we have 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. I'm just going to put arrows down to these. 2, 3, 4. Ooh, it's really hard to get in there. And 0.5. And then down here we'll have 6, 7, 8, 9. So 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, and 0.9, right? So we're just going by 0.1s all the way through here. But when you're dealing with inches, it's different. So I'm going to come down here and put in the inch markings. It's a little bit bigger, so it'll be a little bit easier to do this. So that's a 0, that's a 1. Here, that's going to be half an inch. That's a quarter of an inch. That's 3/4. That's an 1/8, 3/8, 5/8, 7/8. That's a 1/16, 3/16, 5/16, 7/16, 9/16, 11/16, 13/16, and 15/16. So that'll be a 0. That'll be a 1. This is going to be a 1/2. This is a 1/4. This is a 3/4. This is a 1/8. 2/8 is here. 3/8, 5/8, and 7/8. And then here I'm going to do the 16ths. That's a 1/16, a 3/16, a 5/16, a 7/16, a 9/16, 11/16, 13/16, and 15/16. Now, all of these can be measured in sixteenths. Like this one here is 2/16, but that reduces to 1/8. Here this is 4/16, but that reduces to 1/4. Here that's 8/16, which reduces to 1/2. So these all kind of reduce. Alright, let's go and do one more of these. Go ahead and pause your video. Go ahead and take measurements for this segment both in centimeters and in inches, and then unpause and we'll compare to see how we did. Okay, so hopefully you should have this measured out. I'm going to go ahead and do this in centimeters first. So once again, put this at the very edge. Well, that looks to be just about 6 centimeters. Now the question is it closer to 6.0 or is it closer to 0.1? And I think it's closer to 6.0. So I'm going to put 6.0 centimeters as the measurement. And then once again, knowing this is where the uncertainty is. That last digit is, we're like, well, I don't know if it's exactly 0. It could be 0.0 something, right? Okay, we'll go ahead and do inches here. Now this is 2 inches. That's a 1/2 inch. That's a 1/4 inch. This looks to be about 3/8, 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. So it's, yep, I would say 2 3/8 inches. Now if I have a choice, I'm doing my measurements in centimeters. I think the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, this is so much easier to deal with them with these fractions. But we are going to cover both. Alright, let's go and flip the page. And now we're going to talk about measuring angles, and we'll cover that in the next lesson.